right, guys, we made it back. It's the Fearless Pursuit of Freedom podcast. And today we've got a multifamily syndicator, lead sponsor, co-sponsor, real estate investor out of the Denver area. I'd like to welcome you on. Adam Adams here.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on. And what do you like people calling you? Triple A Adams? Adam Triple A Adams?
Either way, Adam or Triple A.
Okay, that works. Every time I talk to my girlfriend about you, she's like, I'll say Adams or Adams, and she's like, Triple A Adams? I'm like, yeah, that's the guy right there. Yeah. So you've been in real estate a long time from what I can tell, and your primarily business focus now is multifamily. And I saw something the other day on Facebook about you having over 100 doors right now, but you had just sold a complex. So I think a lot of my audience would want to know anything they can learn about multifamily. So I guess we could just dig in to see why you got into it, how you got into it, and where you started, and how you phased into this multifamily space.
Yeah, that works great. So originally I was in land in 2005 doing tax deeds, and that was a cheap way to buy something for $100 and sell it for $12,000. But eventually I read this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was still in college for music education. And when I read that book, I learned a little bit about how to not work for, now money, but to work for residual money. And so I started to think of the best ways to do that. And it seemed, well, Robert Kiyosaki himself got his wealth through multifamily investing. So I decided to do the exact same thing. But I started by actually just managing properties, because at the time I said to myself, I'm going to have to learn how to manage properties. And I don't know why I said this, because you can actually have property managers. But at the time I was like, so I'm going to have to become a property manager so I can learn how to manage my own properties. There was some type of disconnect, but I did that and was managing an 18-plex, a 4-plex, and a condo for this one guy named Reed Quinn out in Utah. And as I was learning to do what's called repositioning an apartment, it was his money, it was his time, it was his knowledge and experience, but he had me doing everything. So I learned knowledge and experience through him. And we turned that property he bought it for a little less than $2 million, and we sold it for about $4 million. I guess I should say he sold it for about $4 million. So I thought I was going to get this giant fat check, like a couple $100,000. Hey, thanks for doing this. Here's 10% of what I made.
Yeah.
No, it didn't work that way. I made, $10 or $12 an hour as a property manager and had free rent. But I really learned some invaluable information on what you can do to increase the property's value for larger multifamilies. And I was so inspired to do it. So the very next year, I bought my first multifamily in 2008, right before the crash. So that was a little fun. There was a little bit of ins and outs on that. And through the years, I bought a couple of small multifamilies. And just recently, we really started to do something called syndication. So that didn't happen until 2017, about mid 2017. It's been a little over a year now. And as we got involved into this new business of syndications, we knew that we had to learn a little bit better. So we took an education course. And since then, we've closed on a 16-plex and 83-plex. So we picked up an extra 99 doors on top of the 30 or so we had before that.
Yeah.
And then where we are looking right now is we've got a 160, a 222, a 248, and a 173 that we're working on getting the LOIs accepted.
Yeah.
That means offer, letter of intent. So if they get accepted, we'll pretty much double our portfolio with any one of those. So that's where we're going to, and it's been a lot of fun. So what questions do you have on how we do it?
Well, one that's ringing right now is you've got 4 or 5 LOIs out. Where do leads like that come from? The people I've talked to in the past, it's network, or not a lot of people do, direct mail like we do in the single family world. But are you having wholesalers bring those to you, brokers, your own marketing?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So there's really 3 approaches. The 2 most common are direct mail and text message blasts. People are using things like that to creatively market directly to the seller.
Yeah.
The more common one is just calling brokers all day, every day, building really good relationships with brokers in the areas that where you're looking.
Yeah.
And for us, we just felt like that was more swimming upstream. So we use social media um, in order to get our kind of like our name out to a few different people so that people see us as somebody who's closing deals, able to close deals, able to raise money.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking a little bit about your wife calling me triple A, and that comes from our just our social media campaigns. We're posting multiple times a week, probably almost 2 times a day sometimes.
Yeah.
So um, the places where we're going, hopefully for the listeners, if they're trying to think about doing this strategy, is we go on to multifamily investing groups. So we'll find anything in the areas. So let's say you were in Minneapolis. So you go Minneapolis multifamily and Minneapolis apartments. You'll search that and you just look for all the groups and the pages to like and to join. And then you just want to start by adding value to other people in those groups. Start answering questions, start responding. When you close a deal, like when we closed our 16 unit, the first syndication, we put that everywhere.
Yeah.
And we just said, you know, we just closed our first syndication and we worded it differently because I don't know what goes on with Facebook, but I figure if you put in exactly the same in all 12 groups,
Yeah.
it's going to be a little. So sometimes we would say something like, just closed a $1.2 million deal, or just closed my first syndication, or
Yeah.
just closed a syndication, or just closed a syndication out in this place, just bought my 5th apartment building, stuff like that. Even though it was my first syndication, however we worded it, we wanted to kind of get out there, get on bigger pockets and tell everybody what we're doing. And now what's happened, the reason I bring all this up is because we get a lot of attention that way, and brokers and wholesalers, like you mentioned, are looking at us saying, well, these guys can close. I know because he keeps posting that he closes on deals. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That brings up two things is one, we'll circle back around about the power of social branding. That's kind of how I built my whole business. But then the Facebook algorithms, yeah, they'll nobody knows that secret code and it's constantly changing, but they'll flag spammy type post where you're constantly repeating the exact same message.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I know, but personally need to work on because I'm always posting in these groups, but it's a copy paste, and I know I'm not getting the type of insight or views, or the algorithms aren't showing my posts like I want them to.
Yeah.
And I know it. I just so busy. a little bit of laziness too. But let's talk about social branding. That I like that you brought that up because, like I said, I wouldn't be who I am or where I am without social branding. And I've talked about it on some other podcasts. Is I'm always battling that internal war with myself. Am I a social media addict or am I building my business? And so I like other high level people like yourself bringing awareness to it because it makes me feel better about myself that I'm not an addict and that I'm building my business.
Since we brought it up, one really fun hack that we've done on our social is be really careful to ask more questions and stop telling people things.
Yeah.
Because specifically on social, you want people to comment because then it sees the engagement.
Yeah.
So when somebody comments on ours, we reply with questions over and over and over. And so we might start out the thing saying, we're going to have this event that's going to teach you XYZ. Let me know if you want to go. Comment below.
Yep.
Instead of just putting the link automatically, it'll just destroy us. Only 10 people even know about it.
Yeah.
And so instead it's comment below, and then you ask a question like, oh, great, you want to go? Question mark. And they're like, yes, I just told you. And then you're like, okay, do you want me to send it to your email or your private message you? Oh, you can private message me. Okay, I'm sending it now. Please let me know when you get it. Question mark. So adding more and more engagement.
Yeah, that's funny. A lot of people Like I'm helping my girlfriend Ashley with the branding, the imaging thing, and one of those things is not posting links that drive you outside of Facebook because it'll cut your exposure down probably by 90%. I'm just guessing, but the engagement is one thing that a lot of people don't get. Is they'll make these posts and then never respond back to anybody, but they don't understand that the more interaction, the more likes, the more comments, the higher that's going to be exposed to your friends list.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal. Big deal. It's a fancy algorithm that nobody understands, but there's some key points that a lot of people can learn from right there. Especially like I have a small real estate team, and I'm always trying to tell them like nobody knows what you're doing without you putting it out there, and you got to put it out there a lot. Because when something does come up that benefits you both mutually, you need them to think about you and not somebody else.
Yep.
And that's just a full circle, social branding. What I tell my girlfriend all the time, it's a brand awareness, branding image. Yeah. So that's pretty powerful. To circle back around on your multifamily, you've got the two buildings now and the 4 or 5 LOIs out. Are you concentrating in the Denver market, or are you going nationwide? Certain markets, whatever.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Probably one of the better ones that we can even get into on a podcast like this is market selection, because it's just really huge, and every market pretty much has their own cycle. So on Denver, when I look at Denver, everything that we're doing and trying to understand is that we're at the top of the market starting to come down. That's just what it looks like for apartments. There's an oversupply right now. There's concessions happening. So for Denver and getting into apartments, it's not what we would be doing at this moment. There's other markets that people probably haven't heard of, or not very many people. There's Branson, Missouri. They have 9 million visitors so every single year. So obviously people have heard of them.
Yeah.
But not too many people have. When you look at that market, you see job growth happening, and it's been consistent for the last several years. And right now, actually, the apartment buildings that are there have 100% occupancy. So there is just almost no supply versus the demand.
Right.
And they're even bringing in more jobs, and it's becoming one of the top places for people to retire. So that's been on our map where the cost of living is already pretty low. It doesn't make a lot of sense yet to be building new apartment buildings there, just because how much rent you can get for a new one, it's just not there yet. So we know that prices are going to be coming up, and we know that we're going to stay at 100% occupancy. So we love the area. We want to keep buying in that area. And then there's just a couple other small markets that we're open to. So there's a couple markets in Texas. Indianapolis has a great cost of living right now. And then there's a couple others that I can't think of right off the top of my head, but in Georgia, Alabama, we'd be open to a couple other markets.
Yeah. Yeah. The syndicators and multifamily people that I know here in Dallas they don't even bother looking at things in the Texas area anymore, just because there's the competition that is there, and there is somewhat of a decline that we can see based off of sales and longevity of days on market in the single family space. And then I'm sure it's reflecting in the multifamily space in some form or fashion. But
one thing about there's 2 markets, and so we are recording this in July of 18, and there's one market that I want to talk about, which is Dallas, and then the other one, which is Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah,
they've been hot markets for a long time. They've had a tremendous amount of appreciation for several years. But I think among some of the places that are around the country that have had the same amount of trajectory for the past 5 years, a lot of them don't have the same trajectory in the future 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And I do believe that Dallas is one of the 2 cities right now that feel like it's at the top for apartment investing. But I do believe that we probably have 5, 10, 15, and 20 years to see it continue to grow, because they're bringing in so many jobs. And it's always going to be different for multifamily and single family. Right now in Denver, for sure, apartments are already going down, but single family is probably, in my opinion, going to keep going up for the next couple of years. So it's really hard to pinpoint it. Sometimes they don't travel in the exact same direction.
Yeah. No, that's great insight. Yeah, I've noticed that in the Denver area. I know my buddy Corey, we mentioned to him in a second ago, he plans on moving out there. So he's kind of researching that market. So he's mentioned some of those things as well. But no, it's great insight, being able to learn from people that have been there, done that, and who are doing the proper research into those markets. So I like hearing it. I got the nerd in me, but so now you're in multifamily, but at one point you're doing single family flips. Have you just pretty much gotten out of that altogether, or? Oh, your audio.
I know you have a lot of.
Sorry, your audio cut out for a second, but go for it. Sorry.
Can I back up?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, just about a sentence. Yeah.
So yeah, we're pretty much out of single family flips.
Yeah.
We made money doing fix and flips, but I felt like to me that the amount of effort and time that we put into getting a flip done, we could put that same amount of effort and time into getting a large multifamily and end up making even more. So we did switch our focus from it, but I did 9 fix and flips about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I did 9 fix and flips right before I switched back into multifamily. And at the time, it was really just a mindset thing. I always wanted to be in multifamily. I started in multifamily property management in 2006. I started owning my own multifamily in 2008. So it was really a mindset of thinking that I wasn't ready to graduate to the bigger stuff. And, I did a few flips and it kind of just slowed me down for my end goal. And finally I said, I'm just going to conquer it. And so we went right into it and have had a pretty good amount of traction since we started. But probably not going to do any more single family. Just to me, it's just so much work for a smaller amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of getting that way right now. That's primarily my business model, is fix and flips. A little bit of wholesaling here and there, but yeah, I'm on the same page in a sense that a lot of work for you make good money, but my buddies that are in multifamily and other forms of or avenues of real estate investing seem to have a little bit less stress than I do. So.
Fix and flips are pretty stressful. Some people are repositioning large multifamily, and I can imagine that being quite a bit of stress as well. But when you do that stress, it might take you a year or two, but those people are making $2, $4, $5, $10, $20 million on their flip. So it takes 1 to 2 years to make millions. So for anybody who's thinking about going into multifamily, I would say do it. I would say take the skills that you have right now today that are in single family and just push them over and see if it scales the way that I'm telling you it does, Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's something I'm internally battling right now, is like, I've got the single family flips down, but it's like the next jump is always scary. But then I look back and think, well, that was pretty easy. So I'm getting over that right now. You have a course on raising money. And I think that's one of the fearful aspects of getting into investing for anybody, and at the bottom level, flipping. So the guys that I know that are raising big sums of money from multiple people it's about the relationship. Would you say that's?
Yeah, 100%. It's all relationships for sure.
Yeah. And so I don't know, I haven't really dialed in my audience right now, but I know that a lot of them listening are going to be gearing their mindset towards the real estate just because that's what I'm in. But a lot of them may not know what a syndication is, and sponsorships and leads, or and lead sponsors. Can you give a quick snippet about the definition behind a syndication of a multifamily?
Well, when you're raising money for closing on a large apartment building, there's a legal way to do it.
Yep.
And that means that you have to file with the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And to do that legally, you have to file what's called a private placement memorandum. So there is if a company is taking themselves public, they have to do this, but on a massive scale. So this is just a small way to file with the SEC to raise money. So once you've done that part, you actually, I have a deal, I'm called a sponsor. So
Mhm.
I will sign on the loan. I will raise the money from other people. I will manage the asset during the time. And so for this syndication, I'll buy it, but I won't be buying it with my money. I'm offering a solution to other investors so that they can invest into the deal. So basically, on our last couple of deals, we gave 70% of the partnership,
Mhm.
70% of the ownership to the people that came in with the money. So we might have raised like 1.3 on the last one.
Yeah.
And we came in eventually with nothing. All of our closing costs we got refunded back to us. And we collectively own 30% to manage it. And we do that just so long as they make as our passives are making a decent amount of money. So the underwriting's a little bit harder if you're
Yeah.
going to do syndication, and there's a few hoops to jump through, but it is absolutely worth it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Um, yeah, I mean, we could talk for hours about multifamily and how to structure deals and stuff, and I don't want to dive too deep into it, but they can always reach out to you if they want to assist you in any form of fashion. But you also heard, well, like again, bring my buddy Corey up. He went out there to go to your meetup, and I hear it's a pretty big deal. You want to talk about that?
Two of my meetups. The first one that he went to was Colorado Brokers Association, and there
Yeah,
must have been maybe 70 or so people there. We meet
yeah,
CBA, Colorado Brokers Association, meets twice a month, and one of them's a happy hour. So he came to that,
yeah.
and that was a lot of fun. And then later, he flew in and came to Denver Apartment Network. So we call it DAN, DAN. Uh, there was 220 people the day that he came,
Wow.
and on our next ones, we'll probably have closer to 300, a little over 300. But they are a big. They are a bit of a big deal.
Mhm.
I say that as humbly as possible. I am proud to be a part of it, but they my meetups have become the number one meetups in Colorado. We just have tons and tons of people coming. I think that stems from trying to add value as much as
Yeah,
possible. So the tickets were cheap or free to almost everything that we're doing. We have sponsors giving people food or drinks, and we fly in pretty good speakers. So actually, from Dallas, you guys have a few really good apartment syndicators.
yeah,
One of them is Brad Sumrock, and he and I have become friends through the podcast. And he flew out to present for our group, and it was really massive, really successful, really fun, and tons of networking
yeah.
before and after the meeting. A lot of fun. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I've met Brad. Good guy. Been to one of his weekend deals, the 3 day. What's he call it?
Rat race, something like Escape the Rat
Retire.
Race.
Escape the
Yeah,
rat race. Yeah,
something like
something.
that.
There's a two in there or something. That's going to make me look bad, but
Rat Race to Riches.
rat
Yeah,
race to riches. Yeah, something like
is that
that.
what it is? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. But no, great guy. And I know a lot of people follow him, including myself, and he definitely offers a lot of value. And he just had a really big thing again where he got like 8 buses together.
Yeah,
It's like holy smokes.
giant.
Yeah. How long has that meetup been going on? I mean, was it a struggle to build that?
It wasn't too much of a struggle to build it because I had other ones before that, and I kind of
Yeah.
hacked into Meetups algorithms by then. Um, it's been going on for 8 months now.
Yeah.
So we've had we just had our fifth meeting
Really?
last week. So
Wow. That's amazing. Over 200 people in 5 meetings. That's great.
yeah, well, yeah, each one is at least 100, but the next one should all be 300 plus.
Wow. That's great. And you like hosting those in meetup.com rather than a Facebook event?
You know what? So that's part of why our meetings are a little bit more busy, active, or successful than others, is because we're more marketing than we are just whatever. If we only put them on Meetup and that was all we did, we'd probably get a lot less people. So we're doing them in a few places, and
Mm-hmm.
we're not using Bigger Pockets, but just as a hack to some of your listeners, you can use Bigger Pockets to
Yeah.
host your events, so long as you're not a RIA. It seems like they don't like RIAs, but actual national RIAs. But what we do is we put it on Eventbrite, and so we'll always sell a few tickets to people that never would have found us any other way.
Yeah.
We always put it on meetup.com, so the people that are already eager to find us on Meetup can search for us pretty easily.
Yeah.
And then as far as Facebook goes, I tell my friends about it all the time. And we do, like you said, we do actually have a Facebook event that's created. And so we'll usually probably poll anywhere from 1 to maybe 20 people off of Facebook. We'll usually take about 3 to 10 people off of Eventbrite, and we'll usually get about 40-ish people from Meetup, and then just from marketing and telling people that they should come to the event, that's where we get the extra 100 or 200 on top.
Wow, it's amazing. Yeah, it's kind of. I'm trying to do like a similar thing of branding and marketing with the podcast, and just going all over the place. And right now, my VAs are getting the podcast onto a lot of the podcast sources, I guess, and platforms like Spotify and iTunes and all that stuff. But then I'm posting the podcast to actual shows across Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Bigger Pockets cut my last one out, but
Yeah.
what's the other one? LinkedIn. So yeah, I try to do a similar thing, just wide reach, and
Yeah,
seems to be working pretty well.
absolutely.
Oh, I had another question. Oh, you've got a podcast, most importantly, and I've been watching that a lot lately, and I know people that have been on there. What's called the Creative Real Estate Podcast.
Yeah.
So you're geared at real estate only.
All 100% just real estate.
Mhm.
And since I'm a multifamily syndicator, a lot of what we talk about is around the syndications and being able to do bigger deals faster, creatively, thinking outside the box to just get a deal done. But it's not just about multifamily. Sometimes I'll just have an expert in entrepreneurship
Mhm.
come on. And what we'll do is we'll hack into how, what are they doing creatively to get in front of more people, or what are they doing outside the box? Because if you're going to be running any type of real estate business, you have to understand that you're an entrepreneur at the same time, and you're going to be extremely unsuccessful if you're just thinking that you're an investor. You have to think that you're a business person.
Yeah.
And marketing is huge, so it's that branding strategy that has brought you to where you are, and it has brought me to where I am, that we try to share on the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one thing I had to instill in my brain pretty quickly is the marketing aspect and staying on it. Because in the beginning, I would not only was I handwriting my letters and hand signing and just over and over monotonous writing and envelope stuffing and stuff, but I'd send out batches of however many hundreds, and then I'd like, get a deal. And I'd be so concentrated on the deal, I'd forget to get my stuff out, and I had to discover and learn how to build an actual business behind it instead of just these onesie twosie things. And it's still my number one to do thing right now is just to build this thing. Well, great, man. I appreciate you coming on. I always try to wrap up my shows with 2 questions. I like exotic cars. If you're a fan of them, which one would you want to buy? Oh,
Off.
hold on. Every time you jump back in, it cuts off the audio, but you're good now.
Yeah, I go on and off with exotic cars. I love them. I appreciate them. I think they're gorgeous. I don't know if I'll ever buy one,
Yeah.
but I think I like them all.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I always wanted a Lamborghini, but the older I get, I don't care if I'm a billionaire. I don't know if I'm going to want one. If I get money, I just want to put it into another apartment complex,
Yeah. No, smart man. Smart man. I don't know if I could hold off that long and not buy one, but and then my favorite question, because I think we're all here for a reason, and I don't want to look back on life and think I lived a life full of regrets. I don't want to. I don't want ever want to think, what if I would have done something. So the question is, if you had 6 months to live, what do you think you would do in those 6 months?
Great question. My main passion is leaving a legacy. I think I've done enough of that if I had only 6 months, I would probably move out of work and just play with my kids for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
So my main strategy is building a brand, building a legacy, adding value to other people. But if I truly only had 6 months, I would stop right now and just play with my kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of the same thing here is, I don't know if realistic, like, I walk away for 6 months right now at this point, but I'm trying to, and I think we're all doing it at some level, just trying to build a life to where we don't have to be doing the grind every single day. But yeah, trying to build a business to where if something catastrophic did happen, I guess in those last 6 months with family and impacting other people's lives. But it's awesome. Great answer. Love it.
Thanks. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And if you're open to it, we'll bring you on the Creative Real Estate podcast too.
Yeah, I appreciate it. For people wanting to reach out to you, do you have best form of doing that? Email, website, Facebook?
Yeah, they can just go to the website. That might be the easiest way. My email is just adam@realbluespruce.com, but just have them go to realbluespruce.com and they should be able to find us. And if they can't find that free course, you mentioned a raising money course.
Yeah.
If they can't find it automatically on the website, if it's unsearchable, they could text the word raising money to 555-888. It's 555-888. And just text raising money. They should be able to find that course pretty easy.
Okay. Awesome, man. I'll put all this down in the show notes, of course.
Okay.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate having me.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.